And actually, a lot of people in politics love it as well. Everyone pretends to be really highbrow. I think Love Island teaches us quite a lot about relationships as well. So I wanted to discuss it with two real experts on the subject. Very warm welcome to the show, Amy Hart. Amy was a contestant and I would
Hi.
say standout star of the show in 2019. Amy, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's so exciting to have you on. Grant was actually just saying, oh my God, I'm so excited to speak to Amy.
I know. Amy, when you left the villa, I was so upset. And your speech, like, if I ever see clips of it, it still reduces me to tears.
Oh my God, it's like iconic. And welcome to the show. A great friend of the show as well. She's a behavioural psychologist. She's really, she's got amazing expertise in how these kind of TV shows work and how they handle the mental health side of it. And of course, she's a massive Love Island fan as well. A warm welcome to Jo Hemmings. Hi, Jo.
Hi, Ayesha.
Right, Amy, I'm going to start with you. What have you thought about this season so far?
I've loved it. I think it's been a vintage year, and I think it's probably the best one since ours, I would say. It's been hilarious, and I think that's all down to Ekin-Su and Davide. Like, they have carried the entire series. But I just said on my Instagram, actually, because everyone, I keep getting messages being like, so who do you think is going to win? And I think the only danger is everyone, like, and I'm the worst one for it. So my auntie said to me today, who are you going to vote for? And I said, well, obviously Ekin-Su and Davide will win, so I'll vote for Tasha and Andrew, because then hopefully they'll get second. So as long as not everyone is as awful as me and does that, they'll win.
Yeah, I think you've got to vote for who you want to win, because this often happens in politics. There are unintended consequences when people think somebody is going to win. I actually agree with you, Amy. I think this, apart from yours, which was absolutely knockout, I've actually really enjoyed this one, because even though there's been a bit of drama, I have felt that the relationships have actually been very balanced. They've actually been quite pleasant to witness how they've unfolded. I kind of have felt they've been quite healthy. And of course, the thing that I love about Love Island, which is counterintuitive, many people say it's terrible for women. I actually think it's great, because I think the females always stand out. The women always stand out, the female friendships. And I've really felt this year, the women have really stood up for themselves. They've really backed themselves, as they say on Love Island. Jo, what do you think about that?
Yes, I totally agree. I think the women have had a real connection. They're very strong individually. They're very strong together. I mean, it's interesting listening to Amy talking about Ekin-Su and Davide, because about a month ago, I had major surgery and I was in hospital quite high on drugs. And the Sun asked me to write an article about who I thought would win. And I went, absolutely, Ekin-Su and Davide, they're really hot and passionate together. It's all marvellous. And they reported it as, you know, kind of surprisingly, TV psychologist says. And I thought, no, I may have been a bit high on drugs, probably, prescribed drugs, but I kind of nailed it and I've stuck with it. So I just think their journey particularly has unfolded in a very relatable way. But, all the couples feel quite strong. It has, I think, again, I agree with Amy, it's been a bit of a kind of legendary year.
It has. It's so funny. Everybody loves Ekin-Su and Davide. So Ekin-Su is Turkish and Davide is Italian. And I love the comedian Russell Kane, who does these hilarious videos about them. And he was like, when they get together, particularly when they start kissing, it's like the World Cup of snogging. It's like Italy versus Turkey. Which is hilarious. But look, let's talk a little bit. Let's go into some of the contestants, who I actually think have all been brilliant this year. But two people have really stood out for me. Actually, quite a lot of people stood out. Ekin-Su was brilliant. But Gemma Owen, I think, has really stood out for me, Amy. She's only 19, but she's got a wise head on those young shoulders, hasn't she?
She has. At the beginning, everyone was like, she's only 19, she's too young, she's only there because she's Michael Owen's daughter. But she's actually been one of my favourites the whole way. It's interesting, you say about like voting and politics and stuff. I think that Gemma and Luca will come second, because I think that Paige and Adam will go tonight, and then they will get all of Paige and Andrew's votes. So it's like they're like collecting. I always say that it's always strategic. You've got to look at who's going first and who they're going to take the votes from.
Oh, Amy, this is your love of politics. It's also worth saying that Amy also is an absolute political animal, aren't you, Amy?
I am.
Who do you think is going to win the leadership contest for the Tories very quickly?
So I always thought of Liz Truss as a bit of like a parody character from like a sitcom, and then like actual MPs that I really respect, who I met at like, the GCMS and stuff, were backing her, and I was like, I'm really confused, but I do think she's going to win now. I'm a massive empath. Obviously, I'm a massive Labour supporter and a massive empath. And when Liz said I'm not the best presenter, I was like, Liz, believe in yourself, girl. Like, even though obviously I'm not conservative at all. But yeah, I think it will be Liz. And I didn't like how nasty, because I am, again, a very sensitive little soul. I didn't like how nasty Rishi was to her in the first two people debate.
So patronising, wasn't he?
Interesting.
And I thought, like, in the ones with all five of them, like, they were all really respectful to each other, and they let each other talk, and, you know, they sort of like questioned each other, but in a nice way. And then as soon as it was two of them,
Jo Hemmings, what do you think about the girls this year, particularly Gemma? I have been really struck by how confident she's been in herself, particularly for somebody so young, and I think she's actually probably going to be the standout star going forward. But the other girls as well, India has been very clear about her boundaries and what she wants. I think all the girls have been quite sort of clear. I mean, what do you think?
Yes, I agree. I forget sometimes how young Gemma is. And I think with Luca, who's been at times quite possessive, a bit overprotective, a bit difficult with her, she has stood her ground, and she has said to him, you know, this is not acceptable. I don't want you doing that, which I think is phenomenal for a 19-year-old to be able to A, recognise it, and B, confront it and still say, I want to be with him in spite of that. But she calls it out every time. And I have huge respect for her for doing that, because a lot of 19-year-olds would think, oh, best I don't rock the boat. I'm thinking it, but I won't say it. And I really think it's terrific. She's actually called it out.
And how intense is it in that villa, Amy? Because this year we've seen Liam Llewellyn and Jax O'Neill leave citing mental health issues, saying they were both struggling to feel like themselves. How intense is it in there?
It's really intense. But for me, the thing that got me was it's really long. The days are so long that before I went in there, you know, people from previous series would say, oh, every day feels like a week. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, reality TV show bingo. Every day feels like a week. You go on a journey, yada, yada. Oh, my God. So literally every day is like a week. You don't like, so you'd get up in the morning, go and sit in the garden for 3 hours and have an hour for lunch, then go and sit in the garden for another 3 hours. And you might be lucky enough that you get sent out on a date or a challenge, which is 2 hours, or you just sit in the garden for another 2 hours. Then you come back and talk about it for an hour, or just sit in the garden for an hour, then an hour for dinner, 2 hours to get ready. And then you start filming the nighttime at 10 p.m. till 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Wow.
So when people say like, oh God, you know, like, why are they behaving? Why are they all saying they're best friends? They know each other 5 minutes, and it's like, you haven't. Like, you know, by the end of the first week, we all know like what each other's parents were called, what each other's siblings were called, you know, what our hobbies were. Like, we knew each other inside out by the end of the first week. Like, and not just the couples you're in, like everyone knows everyone.
And
it is quite, yeah.
And Amy, what's it like when you leave? Because you've been cocooned in this very odd world, and then suddenly you hit the outside world. What's that like?
So there was a couple of times while I was in there, I wanted to leave, but then I was like, oh, I'm safe in here. So I don't want to go home, because I know what I'm getting in here, and I don't know what's on the outside. And then when I left, once I decided to leave and I told everyone I was leaving, while I was packing my case, I did think, oh, am I gonna regret this? So when I get to the end of the driveway, I got to the end of the driveway and I didn't regret it. And I took my mic off and I didn't regret it. And I was really worried to go to sleep that night, because I thought, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and think, what have I done? I've like thrown away like Love Island. And I literally had the best night's sleep I've probably had in 4 months. And I like literally, I've never, like, that feeling of regret's never come. But it was quite intense. Again, like, can't feel the storm, yet put in like a little holding villa, and, you know, me and my chaperone like cooked dinner together and stuff. And then when we were in the car to the airport, they said, like, look, if you don't want to do pictures at the airport, like, you don't have to. And I thought, well, who's going to want a picture with me? And then we got there, and there was the EasyJet queue and the BA queue, who had already watched last night's episode. And I just like got mobbed. And then when we got back to Gatwick, there was like 25 paps and journalists and people, and like all my BA friends who'd come down from their airport standby to like welcome me back and stuff, and all my friends. And I did 37 interviews in 14 days.
Wow. And Jo, we've just got a short amount of time before we have to end the show. How can the show help look after people at that point?
Look, it's really important. Aftercare was something that's probably neglected up until a few years ago. I mean, you did a lot of psych assessment. Well, Love Island's one of the few shows I don't work on, so it's easy for me to talk about it. But certainly aftercare was very much an afterthought on many shows. And I think actually it's critical. It's actually more important than the original psych assessment and supporting people through the show. Because when they come out, however much you warn them about what's going to happen, it still comes as a complete shock to most people. So the support that contributors need when they come out of shows is massive. And thank goodness the tide is now turning, and there is quite a big program of aftercare support for people when they come out.
I do think something I'd say really quickly, you have to take advantage of the aftercare, because so many of my friends, like, obviously were like, oh, I don't need therapy, whereas I was like, give me the therapy, and it completely changed my life.
Well, Amy and Jo, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. We're going to be glued to the final tomorrow night. The three of us will be tweeting away about